All right, everyone, welcome to the third screencast for Chapter 2. Chapter 2 is, of course, covering model building and gains from trade. And in this screencast, we're going to be introduced to the first model that we're going to use to analyze microeconomics and to talk about microeconomic theory. It's called the Production Possibilities Frontier. All right? The Production Possibilities Frontier shows all the different combinations of outputs that society can produce if all of its resources are being used efficiently. It can also do this for individuals. It can show what combination of resources an individual could produce if that person was producing at the most efficient level that they could. There are a few assumptions of this model, as we mentioned in the last screencast. All models have assumptions. So let's lay out the assumptions in the Production Possibilities Frontier model. The first is that technology is fixed. The second is that your resources are fixed. In other words, the inputs, the things you have to make things are fixed. And for this class, we're going to stick with a simplified two-good analysis. That's not really a limiting assumption. We could do this in with more goods, but the points that we need to make for this class will work with two goods, and so there's no reason to overcomplicate things. All right. So what does a Production Possibilities Frontier look like? We're going to use wings and pizza here as the two goods that can be produced. All right. So we have here we have the quantity of pizzas that could be produced and the quantity of wings that could be produced. So this just starts at 0 and it increases as you go this way along the y-axis. The quantity of wings produced increases as you go along the z-axis there. All right. So let's put some of this in. So this is what a Production Possibilities Frontier looks like. All right. And the way we got this is, well, if this particular economy did nothing but produce pizzas, all of its time, all of its resources was spent on producing pizzas, it could produce here at A and produce 100 pizzas. If for this particular person or economy, they spent all of their time and resources on producing wings, they could produce 300 wings. And here we have a linear Production Possibilities Frontier, and so they can produce all the different combinations of pizza and wings in between these two. Now, in a minute, we're going to have Production Possibilities Frontiers that aren't necessarily straight lines, but let's get a handle on this one first before we move there. All right. So that means two possible combinations that someone could produce are, well, this person could produce 70 pizzas and 90 wings. That's one possibility. They could produce 50 pizzas and 150 wings. That's D. That's another possible level of production with these two goods. Another possibility here is at 40 pizzas and 70 wings, and this is point F. All right. Notice that this particular point is underneath this line. So it's called the Production Possibilities Frontier model. The frontier is the line itself. So this shows the maximum of all combinations of pizza and wings that can be produced. But that means that anything inside of the frontier is possible. So everything in here can be possibly produced. So it's the production possibility, and this is the frontier. All right. Everything inside of the frontier is possible to be produced. All right. And then anything outside, such as this point E here, is not possible. It is outside of the possibilities frontier. All right. So let's talk a little bit about this. First of all, why is the Production Possibilities Frontier downward sloping? Well, that's because if you are producing here, say at 100 pizzas, and you want to produce one wing, you must produce less pizza, all right? Because here you are using all your resources, all your time, everything to produce nothing but pizza. That's what this intercept is here on the y-axis at 100. And so if you want to produce even one wing, you have to give up producing some pizzas. And so that's why we have a downward slope here. The same thing is true here. If you are producing nothing but wings and you want to produce one pizza, you have to give up some wings in order to move this way on the Production Possibilities Frontier. All right. So why can't we produce certain combinations? We said earlier that we can't produce E here, that that's not possible. Why is that not possible? Well, it's because of scarcity and limited resources. Remember, the frontier shows if you're using all your resources, all your time, that is the combination of wings and pizza that you can produce, all right? So that means all the points on the line itself, so here A, C, D, and B, those are all efficient. That means you're using up all of your resources. You're not leaving any capacity for your production left idle, all right? So that means all of the points inside are inefficient. You're not on the frontier. You're not maximizing all of the things you could be producing with your resources and your time, all right? And again, just as a reminder, E is unattainable. It's outside of the production possibilities frontier, all right? So we want to tie this back to something we've talked about before. Remember opportunity cost? Opportunity cost was the value of the next best alternative. So when you do something, often you have to have, there's an explicit cost, like if you buy a sandwich, you pay for it. But then there's whatever would have been the next best thing you could have done with that money and your time. That's your opportunity cost. It's the thing you give up by not doing it. So when we talked about the cost of going to college, well, there's the explicit cost, the tuition and the books and that you have to pay. But then there's also what else could you be doing with your time, that next best option, right? And so that's the opportunity cost, all right? So we can tie opportunity costs to the production possibilities frontier. As it turns out, opportunity cost is the slope of the production possibilities frontier, all right? Because remember, as you moved away from producing nothing but pizza, right, and started producing wings, you had to give up pizzas in order to produce wings. So that's literally what opportunity cost is, all right? So another way we can make this a little bit more realistic is we could draw a production possibilities frontier that's not a straight line. We're going to have one, and this is going to be the one we use most of the time in this class. We have it, and it's bowed out, all right? And I'll show you what it looks like in a second. So it doesn't have a constant slope. Why would that be? Well, it's because opportunity cost changes as you get closer to producing nothing but nothing but pizza and nothing but wings, all right? As you get closer to those extremes, the opportunity cost, what you're giving up, gets higher and higher, all right? So this is called the law of increasing relative costs, all right? See if I can do better with the highlighter. The law of, not so good, law of increasing relative costs. So opportunity cost increases as you move along the production, as you move along the amount that you're producing, all right? So it's probably easier just to see this if we show it in a graph, all right? So again, here's quantity of pizzas produced, increasing this way, quantity of wings produced, increasing this way. And this is what the standard production possibilities frontier will look like for this class, right? And again, the reason that it's bowed like this is because as you get closer and closer to this point, you are having to give up more and more wings, all right, per pizza that you're producing. As you get closer to this point, you're having to give up more and more pizza per wing that you're producing, all right? And that's what gives the production possibilities frontier this bowed shape, all right? So here we can see as we give up 30, we have to, to increase, starting at D, to increase 20 pizzas, we have to give up 30 wings, all right? Now, if we want to increase 20 pizzas from point C, we want to produce 20 more pizzas. Notice now we're giving up 50 wings, all right? And the same thing is true here. If we want to if we're at B and we want to produce 20 more pizzas, it cost us 80 wings. So notice the number of wings that we have to give up to produce 20 pizzas increases with each 20 pizza step. And so that's why we have this bowed out shape. So why is it that you have to give up more and more? Well, inputs are not perfectly homogeneous. Some inputs are better for making pizza than other inputs. So if what you have on hand is fixed and you are making wings and you try to start making pizzas, nothing but pizzas, right, or more pizza, you don't have the things you need to as easily make pizza, because all of your stuff, all of your tools, all of your equipment is made toward producing wings. So it's going to get harder and harder for you to shift into nothing but pizza production, right? So that's one of the reasons that we get that bowed out shape, all right? So the next thing we want to think about is, what about a shift in the production possibilities frontier? What would cause the production possibilities frontier to shift outward, so that now we can get those unattainable goods? We can now attain them. We can now produce those unattainable bundles of pizza and wings, all right? Well, it could shift in two ways, all right? One, you get new resources, or new technology could be introduced. Either one of those would affect the production of one good or sometimes both goods, all right? So let's take a look at what a shift in the production possibilities frontier would look like. So here again is that basic production possibilities frontier. Again, it has this bowed out shape because as you get closer to the axes, you have to give up more and more wings to produce more pizza. You have to give up more and more pizza to produce more wings. All right, so that's our PPF. So we're here at 100, and we're here at 70 pizzas and 200 wings produced. All right. So now, what if, let's say, technology improves and becomes possible to produce 120 pizzas with the same amount of resources, all right? So that would shift the production possibilities frontier up to 120 here. Notice, nothing changed about the technology for producing wings, so that stayed the same, all right? Now you can get this point B, which would have been unattainable at the old production possibilities frontier. You can now produce 80 pizzas and 220 wings. All right. Notice the production of wings can still increase. All right, even though only the technology for pizza is produced. All right. Where you end up on this PPF doesn't necessarily only change. The better technology for pizza doesn't only change where you can produce. Doesn't only change the amount of pizza that you produce. It just depends on what combination of the two you were producing before. All right. So now let's look at another way that the production possibilities frontier could change. All right. So here's our original production possibilities frontier again. And so now let's imagine that we get more resources. All right. So again, we're starting here at 70 and 200. 70 pizzas, 200 wings. Now we get more resources, all right? So when you get more resources, that is represented by a complete shift in the production possibilities frontier. So now, if we put all our time and resources into pizza, we can produce 120. And if we put all of our time and resources into wings, we can produce 360. And again, that means that now all of these points that were formerly outside of the production possibilities frontier are now attainable. All the ones inside of this this area here are now attainable. All right. Okay. So what I want to leave you with is one of the reasons that a production possibilities frontier can be another explanation for why they can be bowed out is that there's diminishing returns. All right. As you produce more and more wings, all right, you have to give up more and more pizza. So the amount of resources that you're putting into each additional wing is actually giving you less and less wings. We're going to come back to this later on, but I wanted to go ahead and introduce it here. And so I thought I would do it with this this clip from The Simpsons that you can click down in the comments to see. Bart keeps trying to produce the same thing over and over, and it's a catchphrases, and he finds that there are diminishing returns to doing that. All right, so I'll see you in the next one.